Listen, we have to talk about a reality of this presidential campaign. Donald Trump is missing. Melania Trump is completely missing, as if she doesn't exist. And President Biden has had 18 or 19 public events since the presidential debate. The media, corporate media, has been fixated on questioning President Biden's fitness and age. If you saw the George Stephanopoulos interview on ABC News, how many different ways of asking, are you sick and should you step down, could there have been? And yet these are not questions that are ever posed to Donald Trump, despite the fact that we've been sounding the alarm along with neurology and mental health professionals about Trump's cognitive state for years at this point in time. And we have to include in this that while we acknowledge Joe Biden had a terrible debate performance, he's clearly experiencing age-related decline. We see that. But he's also holding a rigorous schedule. Oh, he's only good between 10 and 4 p.m. Okay. He's also made 18 appearances since the debate while managing the executive branch. We got another good jobs report. We got another stock market all-time high. And yet corporate media is not asking obvious questions about Donald Trump. And they have become obsessed with Biden's age and fitness, which is an important topic. I want to be clear. And listen, I'll take the heat. OK, I've told you I'm going to call it the way I see it. And I see arguments on both sides of this thing. We'll get to the people that are furious with me a little bit later in the show. There is obviously a story with Biden, his brain, and his debate performance. But the fact that corporate media, if Jill Biden suddenly went missing during a campaign, do you realize how much corporate media coverage of that there would be? And yet there is no coverage of the fact that Melania is MIA, by all reports, wants nothing to do with Trump, is sticking around only for the money, and that doesn't include going to campaign events with Trump. The fact that Trump is holding no events, he's doing a rally at his own house tomorrow or later this week. And so the way that corporate media has been covering this diverts attention from the achievements of Biden, which are even more remarkable if he has dementia, and obviously the pressing issues that the administration is addressing. And so the narrative surrounding Biden's age ignores what is his level of direct engagement in high-level diplomacy and domestic policy. Let's assume the report from Axios is true, that they try to keep Biden mostly scheduled within the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. window. Fine. He's still maintaining relationships with our allies and participating in high-level diplomacy throughout all of it. Does this prove he shouldn't be replaced? No, this isn't about that. It's a different conversation. Now contrast this with the corporate media coverage of Trump. Trump is almost completely absent from public appearances since the debate, other than these orchestrated rallies that have much more in common with Fidel Castro and Mussolini than they do with democratic countries. Receives little to no media scrutiny, certainly not from anything even nominally on the right side of the political spectrum as far as media goes. Corporate media has completely failed, and even after the debate continues to fail to question Donald Trump's not only limited visibility, but also his own share of cognitive issues. And it's a discrepancy that should raise questions about the consistency. You know, there's a lot of corporate media now that's saying we're covering what's going on with Biden to be fair. What does that mean exactly? Because you've been ignoring Donald Trump's lack of fitness for years, and you continue to. Now, I don't want to make this all about Melania, but I do want to make one other thing about this. There's almost no corporate media coverage of Melania Trump's prolonged absence from the public eye. And there has been significant scrutiny. You know, the entire news cycle about Dr. Jill Biden isn't a medical doctor. Jill Biden is Joe Biden's caretaker. Michelle Obama's really in charge. Michelle Obama setting up for a presidential run, and the focus on spouses. And of course, there's nothing about the complete and total absence by Melania Trump. And again, it's a completely uneven standard. So what we have here is an agenda-driven media bias. People like to say, well, it's politically oriented. It's because the media is left or right wing, or it's based on advertising, or the disparity in coverage here suggests that there's some underlying agenda. And it seems to be favoring the sensationalism aspects. It's sensational now to talk about Biden exclusively in the terms that he's being discussed since the debate. The chaos, the controversy that generated is appealing to corporate media. And similarly, Trump's actions without going to what is going on with Trump's brain, because there's also an issue there. Well, if we've got two brain stories, all of a sudden it becomes far less interesting for corporate media. Not as interesting, not going to drive ratings in the same way. Now, as far as the question of Joe Biden's level of engagement, we all see that there's something going on. We saw it at the debate, okay? We've been given some explanations as to the campaign to put Biden out in public only when he's going to be at his best, which is reportedly 10-4. Despite all that, this week, Joe Biden is giving a speech at the NATO summit, meeting with the AFL-CIO, participating in events with NATO leaders at that summit, hosting arrival ceremonies and dinners, conducting working sessions at NATO, holding Ukraine-related meetings, holding a press conference, going to Detroit and doing a campaign rally, and obviously all of the little things, calling constituents, all these different things. That is a hands-on approach, and it is engagement. Now, is he at his best all day? Probably not. Is he tired and going to talk in that really low voice during some of these? I'm sure he is. But in contrast, Trump's schedule this week is one rally at his own residence, Doral, in Florida, where he doesn't even have to leave his house. And all of this goes completely undiscussed by corporate media. So we have a media cycle right now fixated on Biden's fitness. That's a real topic. I'm talking about it too. Anybody serious should be talking about it after what we saw in the debate. But there's no discussion of the fact that, listen, in 2020, the whole thing was Biden's running from his basement. He doesn't leave his house. Trump's barely leaving his house now. He's doing no events. He's got a rally at his house this week. So the skewed coverage is prioritizing sensationalism. It's not actually informing people about what's going on and what the stakes are of this election. And that's another important piece that I'll mention before we move on. Corporate media should hold all political figures to the same standards, be objective in that sense. But in addition to this, we don't actually see the same stories that could be told about Trump that are being told about Biden represented. And we need to understand why that is. We need to be asking why that is. Now, this gets me to talk about the substance of the vast majority of the Biden fitness story. And that's what I want to talk about next. For years now, I have been using a Ridge wallet. I've had a Ridge wallet at this point way before they became a sponsor. They are celebrating their 11th anniversary. A Ridge wallet can hold up to 12 cards plus your cash, and it stays flat and comfortable in your pocket. So much slimmer than anything I've used. I don't want to throw my back off kilter like happened to George Costanza with one of those oversized wallets. So this is great. You can choose from over 30 colors and styles, including ceramic powder and leather. It was designed with RFID blocking materials to protect you from any digital thievery. And Ridge even gives you the option of adding a little AirTag strap to the wallet, so you'll never lose it again. Ridge also offers awesome key cases, which can be used to secure 1 to 6 keys and, importantly, prevent the keys from jingling. Ridge has over 3 million customers, over 100,000 5-star reviews. It's the wallet I've been using for years now. And if you don't love your Ridge product, you can send it back for a full refund up to a full year after you buy it. Comes, of course, with a lifetime warranty because of the extra durable material. Go to ridge.com/Pacman and use code Pacman for 10% off. The link is down below.